Hello everyone, it's Karen Burniston here with the class day recording for our June 2023 virtual class. So we are going to be featuring 3 dies this month. Our pop-up die is going to be the spinner square pop-up and then 2 of our charm sets. So there's the Sweet Treats charms and the backyard charms. So these were the 3 required dies that you had to have to be able to prepare your class kits from the bulk materials that you purchased either through one of the stores or through our website. So at the time of this recording, our website has sold out of kits. The stores that were making kits may still have some, so I will link those in the description box below in case you're watching this video and didn't have a kit and were interested in getting one. So when you purchase a kit, what that gives you access to, in addition to the materials, you're going to get your bulk materials, is then you're going to get these handouts. So the handout instructions are going to come to you either by email from the store, or if you purchased a kit from our website, we just printed them and put them in the kits. What's nice about these little handouts is, of course, it's all of your instructions and everything for your future cards, but then also it will link you to your prep work video. So that prep work video is something that is exclusive to the people that have kits. And when you get your kit, you basically have bulk materials and you follow these paper pre-cutting instructions and these die cutting instructions, and then you stop when you get to class day instructions, which is what this video is. So if you do have a kit and you didn't realize that there was prep work to be done, no biggie. You can stop this video right now, go do that prep work, come back and finish your projects anytime by watching this video. It'll be right where you left it. Or if you want to make these projects again after today, then again, you still have access to that prep work video within the prep work video in the description box below that. I will put a link right back to this video so you'll have prep day, class day put together. Okay, if you happen to be watching this video on the premiere, which is June 10th, 2023 at 11 a.m. Central, then there is a chat box, I don't know which direction, this direction, that you can ask me any questions. I'll be there in the chat. If not, then you can watch this at any time. Anytime you want to. Okay, so let's jump in and get started. I'm going to turn my face off so it's not distracting. And we're going to go now with just our class assembly. Alrighty, so since you did your prep work ahead of time, which is where you turned your bulk materials into basically 2 pre-cut class kits, then you don't need your die cutting machine today or anything like that. You're just going to be basically assembling these cards. So some things that you will probably use is your scissors. I always say have your scissors ready. We're going to be picking up some little tiny watermelon seeds and putting them on these watermelons. So if you've got something like a little pokey tool, paper piercer, something where you can pick up those little seeds, that would be good. Some people like to use something like a quick stick to be able to assemble watermelons and things like that. So you might have something like that. And well, you actually do need a pokey tool. So you're going to need that pokey tool to actually poke a hole to be able to put your twine through. So you will use that. And then you're going to need a pop dot. So let me get one out here because I didn't do that ahead of time, which I should have. It's best if you've got a pop dot that has a little thickness to it. But if you only have the really thin ones, it's not like you couldn't stack 2 on top of each other. But if you do have something that's like a thicker pop dot, that would be good for this class. And you know what? We'll figure out what else we need when we get to it. That sounds good. All right, so you saw a little preview here of the first card we're going to make, which is our summer version of the spinner square using those Sweet Treats charms. And then our second one is we're going to double the spinner square so that it's spinning on both sides of the card, and that one's going to be a thank you card. You can, of course, swap out your greeting if you want to use this for something else. Okay, so card 1 is going to be our summer card. So if you will take your pre-cut materials that you prepared using the prep work video and the handout. Okay, this one, let me remind myself, this one's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think it's a 5x6. Yeah, 5x6 card. So you'll use an A7 envelope for that. All right, so first thing we're going to do is get out that card. And we used a heavier cardstock for this card. I love heavy cardstocks for my pop-up cards, and especially for ones that have motion. I don't know. I just think it feels better in my hand when it's a little bit stiffer cardstock. And then we are going to put our pattern paper inside the card. So what do you need? Oh, obviously you need your adhesive. So sorry. My favorite is using glue. I use glue for everything. Mine is LINECO neutral pH adhesive in my fine tip bottle. And then I keep that in a damp paper towel inside a jar. Most of the time I would use something just like a wee yogurt jar is my favorite, but I have this wonderful clay jar that was gifted to me, so I use that. If you keep the tip of that glue down in that damp paper towel while you're working, it will just stay flowing for you all throughout class, and you don't have to get your lid out and plunge it out and things like that when it clogs up. For this first part, you could use a tape runner if you wanted to, because it's just paper to paper. We're going to put this grid paper inside the card, and I would just center on both sides, skipping the fold so that you don't get any bunching. All right, let's do that. And now you can make a choice if you like the pinwheel side better. You could certainly put the pinwheel side up. And those beautiful papers that we're using, I can't remember the name of this. I mean, they're all Echo Park. I don't remember the name of the collection. This one's from a summer collection they have. The item numbers and stuff are listed in your handout. All righty, so we're going to put that on. And for me, when I do inside pattern paper, I just look on the outside 3 edges and I make sure that is even. And then it doesn't matter to me how much space is on the inside. I think it looks best that way. Okay, now the idea with these, now this is on YouTube, so of course you are in control of the speed and the playback and rewinding and pausing and all that stuff. But the idea is that I'm doing this live and essentially narrating it live so that nothing is sped up. And however long it takes me to do, the actual project, you can actually craft along with me. But if I do end up going a little fast for you, or you need to take a break or whatever, you can just pause, come right back to where you were. All right, inside paper on the thing, and I guess I should say, if you're a person that likes to follow along in the instructions, they are printed here. So we've done step 1 here, which is add the grid paper inside the card. Oh, and it says and the photo corners to the centers, or to the corners. Yeah, we could do that too. So in the spinner square pop-up, you get, in addition to your mechanism, you get all these squares, and then the smallest little square in it is actually 4 little photo corners. And what I had you do during prep work is cut those 4 photo corners out of black mirror card that has double-sided tape on the back so that they would be stickers. And then that also gives you the benefit of the cool emboss feature that's built into that die. So it really does look like a real photo corner. And we're going to put those right on the corners. So just a little touch. I try to do that with the dies when I'm drawing them, is, any leftover space, in the design is just a great spot to put those just little extra embellishment dies. And then, if you ever need photo corners, then you've got them in this die set, whether or not you're using them, in conjunction with this die set. Let's do this on their own. Okay, so we have added our photo corners, and then we're going to start assembling all of these frames and stuff before we get into our pop-up. We'll just go ahead and get all of our frames put together. So what we have here is we have green over strawberries. Okay, so what I had to do during prep work is I had you use the scalloped square to cut a bunch of squares, but then I also had you cut some that were frames. And so the way you do that is you nest 2 together and you cut them at the same time, and then you get that frame. So in this case, we've got green, and then that's going to match perfectly because the outer part was cut with the exact same die. All right, so we're going to glue green over strawberries. You can make creative choices, of course. So green over strawberry, that's a square, so there's no, it doesn't, you can rotate it whichever way, it doesn't matter. Okay, green over strawberries. Let's see, we've got red over pink. So, oh, not that pink. Red, oh, this one. Red over pink. Oh, what am I doing? It could be easier to do it this side. So we do these virtual classes every quarter. And When we do the virtual classes, they're completely on YouTube like you're watching now, which means both the prep work is on YouTube and then the class day instruction is on YouTube. And we pick, there's always going to be 3 or 4 required dies for you to do your prep work. They may or may not be new dies. It's sometimes, where the class ends up is over the pink over red. Sorry, I'm grabbing my next one. Sometimes the virtual class date shows up and it's right in between releases. And so then if that's the case, then we just go to favorite dies. So in this case, we're doing favorite dies. And, sometimes those of you who kind of follow the brand and are collecting dies over the years, sometimes you're going to find, oh, great, the required dies for the virtual class this month are dies I already own. And when that happens, then you can just pay for the paper and pre-cuts only. You don't have to get the dies as part of your kit. And that's true from the stores or from us. But then sometimes, it'll be dies that you don't own already. And then that's a chance for you to pick up some of those favorites. You can get a pretty cool bundled price when you buy your dies with your class kit. You get a little discount that way. Okay, white over grid. So white over grid. And one thing I had you do during the prep work, because I knew this was going to be a diamond in the finished card, is I had you die cut through the grid paper so that it was on the diagonal like that, so that when it's a square, it'll be diagonal, and when it's a diamond, it'll be squares again. So yeah, so we do these once a quarter. The best bet, if you want to find out about them, of course, our website is KarenBurniston.com, and we list upcoming classes and things in our events tab. So if you go on KarenBurniston.com and then go to the events tab, then you can find out about any upcoming classes, because I also teach on Zoom. So the other 2 months that aren't part of the virtual class are done on Zoom. And for those ones, the class kits are sold through the stores. Okay, I am finding the yellow and the red. That's going to be the one for the front. But we'll still list those classes, even the Zoom ones. We'll list on our events page, and then it'll just have a link to the stores that are participating. So we have 3 stores that participated in this virtual class, and then they do the Zoom classes every month as well. So the Zooms are exclusive to the stores as far as where you buy your kits. And like the name implies, just like you're seeing here on YouTube, this would be on Zoom at a specific time. And then the students are actually on the video with me. So then they can ask questions and things like that. Stop me. It goes longer. It definitely goes longer because it'll go as long as it takes for everyone to get through their projects. But also it's recorded, so you can go back and watch it later. All right, so we have all of our 5 smaller scallop frames here put together. And then we're going to put together this one for the front of the card. Let's just go ahead and do that right now. So for this one is the only one where we're going to leave the watermelon as a charm. The one thing about our charm dies is that they're double duty, because you have the option to just chop off the little hole at the top when you want to use them as standalone elements, which is the way that we'll use them on the inside of the card. You'll notice that the donut, the ice cream, the watermelon, the popsicle, they're not charms, they're just elements. But then on the front, we're actually going to keep the charm hole on the watermelon and tie it into the frame. All right, so in your kit somewhere should be a piece of twine. It should be, I think it's going to be red, white, but I actually don't know, because usually with twine, I kind of let the kit makers make their own creative choices. So it may not be red, but it'll be something that coordinates. All right, let's dig through here and find watermelon parts. So you got a chance during prep work to use the stencil feature on that die. Grab that die here. So see how it has the seed holes in it? So those don't cut. Those are actually just hole in the die, so that after you die cut, you can take a black pen through it and add the seeds. So that's one nice feature about those small dies, is that you don't have to glue on tiny seeds. Now, we are going to put tiny seeds on it just because it was something I thought would be fun, but in normal times you wouldn't. And then the die also includes 2 rind dies. So one that will cut a whiter one, and that one's the one you would normally cut out of white, and then the skinnier one you would cut out of green. And for our class, I had you put some clear packing tape over the green before you die cut, and that way it's shiny. So you would glue the white one on first. In fact, why don't we go ahead and make both watermelons. while we're in the business of making watermelons, just grab the pieces for the second one too. Okay. So you put your white edge on first. Okay. And lining up, it'll line up perfectly with the outside edge. Then the green one over the top of the white one. And again, lined up with the outside edge. And then just a little curvy bit of white will show underneath. Okay. All right, let's just do that again. Okay. I feel like summer showed up kind of fast this year. It's like the spring went by really fast. I live in South Texas, so we really relish spring and fall down here. Then it gets around to summer and it gets really hot, really hot. Okay, now let's talk about watermelon seeds. Like I said, normally you just stencil them on, you're done. But in this class, we were going to be making that cool black shiny mirror card frame for right here. And those frame edges come in the spinner square die. So it cuts a set of 2. You cut that twice. So here's what the die cuts. And then you can make a frame. So what I thought would be fun would be to take what would normally be trash, which is the little pieces of lace that come out of it, and use those as watermelon seeds. And so that you wouldn't have to keep track of all those watermelon seeds, I actually had you die cut this piece with double-sided adhesive on the back. And what you're going to do, probably would have been better to pull those out the front. Let me put that back. We don't need a ton of seeds, so if you lose some in the process, that's fine. I see some are on my fingers, so that's cool. What I'm going to do, and I mean, this is optional. If this is too fiddly for you, just skip the seeds idea. I just thought it'd be fun to use those little pieces that came out of the middle of that frame and have them be watermelon seeds. And like I said, if you pick them up with a pokey tool or something, let me see. What if I do this? I'm going to dig them out from, do I poke through and then pick up? That's the only thing about double-sided adhesive tape. It's so nice when your items are sticky. But when you do intricate dies that way, then, you always have to worry about the little pieces poking through and then flipping over and into the adhesive on the back. So it starts to become like, well, I could have just used my glue. But for this technique, I did not want to have tiny, tiny little seeds just sitting in your kit where you'd have to keep track of them. So this was the better, for all its fiddliness, the better plan. Okay. You can also, if you're doing this class with me and you're not grabbing seeds as fast as I am, just do them as long as I'm doing it and move on, because you can always go back and add them later. You know what I mean? So I'm getting a method here. I'm just bending the piece, grabbing the seed. Yeah. So the spinner square was our 40-second die, and not 40-second pop-up, just 40-second die overall. And we're now up to well over 200. So I can't remember exactly which release it was in originally, but we try not to retire, especially our pop-up dies, our interactive dies. We try not to retire those. Instead, we just treat them as a foundational type of die. And then as new releases come out, you may find that there's new looks and new things that you can do with some of those old favorites. Or sometimes even add-on sets. We'll come out with an add-on set or something to fit a particular die. Okay, if you're not too sick of watermelon seeds, you can, if you want to, add them to the slice of summer and the life is better in the summer. Completely optional. If you want to do that, you can. Or if you're like, hey, I'm done with seeds, do that too. I leave it to you. choice. Yeah, but while I'm doing these seeds, what we do is we have with our virtual classes, we just go ahead and premiere the video on our YouTube channel. And that is actually something that anybody can watch. So you don't have to have a class kit to watch the class day instruction. And that's kind of also a way to maybe get some new people interested in the program, because they can see what the, what the class is going to look like if they buy a kit. Since these are virtual classes, so people, have some comfort level that they're going to be able to do the projects and keep up and everything. Okay, so I've done all the seeds, and now I'm going to take one of my watermelon things. I'm going to leave it a charm, and I'm going to basically dangle it from the corner of this yellow-red frame. So I'm going to need a hole. Let me find something to pierce into. Here's an eraser. I'm going to need a hole up here in a corner. And I would like to make that larger so it's easier to get the twine through. And then I'm going to take my twine. Now, you can use a needle threader or something, or you can always just add some glue out on the end of your twine and roll it between your fingers, and then that'll make it a needle tip. And it's real easy to get it through. So, okay, it's through there. And then we're going to go through the corner. Okay. And then what I would do is go ahead, I mean, it's up to you, but I went ahead and glued this down where I wanted it to go, so that it doesn't swing. But that really is your choice. But I'm going to go ahead and glue it down. Okay, so something like this. Okay. And then I'll take the leftover twine and tie a bow, which for some of you may be the toughest part of class today, because I always have students who really struggle with bows. Now you can do it bunny ear. Sometimes it's easier to do it that way. Or if you're not a bow person, a knot would look lovely too, so you could do a knot. Okay, here we go. Bring that back. This is the only thing the twine is used for, so you don't have to save any of it. Oh, let me verify that's true. That is true. Yes, that's true. Okay, so trim my ends. All right, and now we have that for the front of the card. And then the other thing that's going to go on the front of the card is the life is better in the summer. It's going to get matted on the red piece. If you want to go ahead and do that. And these little journaling cards, that's one nice thing about using Echo Park. When we choose Echo Park for these classes, is they have so many good papers that are journaling cards on one side, and then that can give you a really great title or for your, words for your card without having to die cut or stamp those words, just using the pieces that come out of the collection pack. Okay, so let's just go ahead. You know what? While we're doing it, let's just go ahead and make the front of the card, and we'll set it aside and add it to the front later. So that's the journaling cards again. On the back side is this really cool strawberries paper. So the front of this card's easy. It's just this green stripe. Kind of, I don't know. You can kind of put your pieces on there and decide placement, but something like this, right? So this is, I don't know how far this is. 3/4, no, something like this, straddled over the inch, something like that. And this green piece is a little bit too long. I didn't have you trim it to fit yet. So you can just glue it on there. And about there, I guess. Okay, and then just flip it over. Trim that to fit. And then we're going to go life is better in the summer. And our watermelon frame. Now, sometimes people ask me on the front of the card, can you use pop dots behind these pieces? Sure, you can if you want to. It'll make your card thicker. If you're mailing the card, then it already has some thickness to it because of the pop-up in there and all the spinning parts, and there's a pop dot on the inside of the card. So that's kind of up to you. But you could, if you wanted to, pop some of these pieces up. What I did on this one is I just left a thin border on these two sides. And then this one's going to overlap on the diagonal. Now the cardstocks that we're using for this class are all from the paper cut. We tend to use either my colors or the paper cut or some combination of both. But in this case, they happen to all be from the paper cut. And they also do all the specialty paper. So that mirror card came also from the paper cut. Okay, there's the front of the card. We don't have to add that on now. We can add that on a little bit. And now let's get back to our inside of our card. Okay, let's just kind of make all of our pieces, and we're going to put the pop-up in, get it inside the card. I'm going to get you really nice and warmed up. Let's go ahead and put the slice of summer, matted it on the black. Another one of those journaling cards from the paper. For this card, I think maybe the only piece that we use, no, we use the butterfly out of the Backyard Charms as well. So we're mixing two charm sets in this class. So mostly on this one, we're using the sweet treats, which does the popsicle, the donut, the watermelon, and the ice cream cone. But then our second charm set that we're using are the Backyard Charms, which we're going to use extensively on the other card. But it does come with that little bit of grass in those butterflies, and we're using those on this card. So the grass is just meant to go on the white rectangle as a place for you to sign the card. So I tend to use a lot of pattern paper in my cards. That's just the way I am quite the admirer, let's call it that way, admirer of pattern papers. And sometimes when you're using pattern paper all over the inside of your card, then it's not so easy to sign it depending on the color of the paper and the pattern. So I try to add something like a little label or a square or a rectangle or something where you can sign it. So in this case, it's going to be over here. We're not going to glue those on yet. I'm just making pieces. Okay, so there's those two pieces. Let's work on our last frame, which we're going to make this one a little bit bigger because this one's going to be the bigger black square with the small one nested inside and then glued to the red square. Okay. And then this is the one that's going to get that cool frame over the top, kind of tone on tone, because this is just a matte black cardstock. And then the frame pieces were cut out of the mirror card. So one of them, you've rid yourself of most of your seeds from doing the watermelons. But what I do, if they stick, you can, well, sometimes they'll just stick to your fingers, which is really lovely when that happens because, you know, it's easy to get them out and then you just have to clean them off your fingers. And, but I did not think to have you weed these as part of prep work. So, but we are on YouTube. So if you're faster than me, you'll be able to fast forward. Okay, so what I found with these frame edges is if you have the edge, the outer edge of the frame line up with the score line, the outer score line on this black frame. So you'll be able to see, you can see right there. See how there's a score line there? If you will center your frame edge so that that little bumpy edge is right on that score line, then you can go all the way around and make a beautiful square frame. Let's see if I can get those out. Now, if you're watching this live, or even if you're watching it not live, you can leave a comment below. If you have a really, really cool trick for getting pieces like that out when you've used double-sided adhesive tape on the back, I mean, I'd love to hear it. I won't be able to share it in this class because this is pre-recorded, but I can show it in a future video. I learn all sorts of tricks from the students and from our peeps. So we have a Facebook group. If you're a Facebook user, we have a Facebook group called Karen Burniston Pop-Up Peeps. And there are people from all over the world posting cards using our die sets. And it is a great supportive place for inspiration and admiration of each other's talents. And so they're always sharing cool tips in there. All right, so let me get my other half of my frame. Whatever I did with it right here. Okay, so let me try something different. What happens if I just poke them? See, the problem with poking them through is as soon as you pick up that frame, it's going to just flip over and right into the back of the adhesive. I knew that was going to happen. So, like I said, if you've got a cool trick, or you know what, let me try this. What would happen if you put it on, I think I've done it this way before now that I think about it, and don't press too hard, and then you just pick them out. That might end up being, that's working. So that's another thing to try. You've got 4 to put on, so you could try different methods and figure out which way works the best. It's funny because oftentimes when I'm designing, I won't do a lot of pieces that have a ton of holes like this for this exact reason, because ultimately it looks super cool. I mean, it's not like I don't do some, I do, but like it becomes a little, hard on the teaching side to be able to use a die that is, that requires so much on the weeding side, but then also when people end up going to do, so I'm going to move that outward just a little bit. People go to do, like, say, their holiday cards or something where they're trying to do a whole bunch of things. Okay, you might have to go a little bit further out than that. Let me see. Oh, that's what it was. If you cover the outer score line with your, it's not like I couldn't have just looked at this one. I certainly could have. Yes, if I had looked at my original, I would have seen that if you take the outside edge and you actually not butt it up to the score line, but actually just cover the score line with the outside edge, that actually gave me a better frame than just right to the, yep. Okay. Note to self, when you use an intricate die in a class in the future, make everyone weed their pieces before class. Put that as part of prep work. All right, well, here's what I like about these being stickers. I can fix it. Okay. I still have a few, I have a few seeds in there. Let me get those out. Okay, almost. And we're done with watermelon seeds and frame seeds. Nope, except for this one that's trapped behind. There it is. Ah, I did it. See, I made that look so easy, y'all. That was just so easy. Took no time at all. Okay. All right, one cool black framed thing. Ready for an ice cream cone. Okay, so what I had our kit makers do is give you a craft cardstock in your kit. And I don't know for sure that each kit maker used the exact same craft cardstock. So if you find that your craft cardstock is not dark enough to your liking, it's not like you couldn't take a little ink if you have such a thing. Like, for instance, I love distress ink for things like this, but I could take something like, I'm just going to use tea dye. That's a pretty light brown, kind of craft-like. And grab my little thing. You could hit, say, the end of your popsicle sticks, which is the only part that you're going to see on that one. Or, for instance, if you wanted to have your donut look more like it just came out of the oven, you could, I guess the fryer. Depends on if you're making healthy donuts. Probably the fryer. We're going to say the fryer. You could hit that with a little ink. Same thing with the ice cream cone. Definitely optional. Or if you just love the color that you had, then you're good. Okay. All right, so then these assemble kind of the way you would think, which is the top of the ice cream cone, the ice cream itself. That one's just sized to fit right on there. It will line up perfectly. And what we did on that one is we took advantage of the stencil feature and embossing it too on the ice cream cone part. And then we put the packing tape over the top and ran it through again. And then we basically had the the stenciled sprinkles trapped under the packing tape so that they are shiny as well. So that's kind of a cool thing. We are not using these as charms, so I'm going to go ahead and trim off the charm hole, and then the ice cream cone is going to go in the center of the black and red frame on the diagonal. Okay, and that is a square, so there's no, you can pick which one is the up and down part. Okay, that one's done. All right, popsicle. For the popsicle, we did the same thing. We embossed it and did some inking during prep work, and then used the packing tape over the top so it would be shiny. On the yellow one, I'm trimming off the sticks. I'm trimming off the charm hole. I don't need the charm hole on the craft one either. And then the yellow one's going to glue to the craft. I mean, this style, I'm going to age myself for sure, but this style of popsicle was just absolutely what we grew up on. And then like you and your brother or sister would get, one of you would get orange and one of you would get lime, and then you'd tear them apart, and share them or whatever. So super cute part of summer in my childhood. All right, so we're going to cut off the charm hole on the donut, and then the frosting for the donut. There's the inner circles are not meant to be perfect, so it really doesn't. You can rotate it around until you get a little bit of inner donut, I guess, under your frosting. But there's no real right or wrong way to do that, I guess is what I'm saying. All right, and then our other watermelon is not going to be a charm, so I'm going to trim off the charm hole on that one. Okay, so let me get some of this trash out of the way here. Okay, if you would like it to match mine, your strawberries one is done. That's just going to use the strawberries as I said we were done with seeds, but I actually sprinkled some seeds around here. I'm sure I still have 1, 2. I still have them on my desk. Sorry, I forgot about that. Okay, so this one, the watermelon's going to go in the red frame, which we're going to turn to a diagonal. And then I had the watermelon facing downward, but that's really just your choice. And if you do still have a few seeds stuck to yourself or your table, and you want to have those kind of sprinkled around the pink area, you can definitely do that. I just did 3. Okay. Or maybe you're like, I'm done with seeds. No more seeds, which is fine too. All right, and then this one, again, arranging it like a diagonal, is going to get the yellow popsicle. Lemon, I guess it would be. Okay, and then the donut is going to go on the grid one, and again, arranging it like a diamond. And then the donut in the middle. Okay, we have all of our pieces and parts. This is great because it's just going to go well. You know what? Let's assemble this butterfly too. So what I had you do on the butterfly, there is a very cool stencil feature on that where you can just sponge through it and or use a pen. And I did think about just having you do black with a pen, but what I ended up doing is having you cut a black mirror card butterfly. And for that one, if you just trim off the wings, just kind of follow the curvature of the body, then you can glue the black one over the pink one or the white one. It's whichever color you say. See, this is where you can pick up your things. Or if that is fussy to you, you could just use a pen and color in the body and the antenna black. Or leave it the way it was because it looked nice that way too. So anyway, your choice. Your choice. Not a charm for this card, so I'm going to trim off the charm hole. Okay, so now we have all of our pieces and parts. So let's get into our mechanism. All right, so spinner square. And you're going to get good at this because you're going to make 3 of them today. All right, so this is going to be your first. If you haven't done this one before, it's been a little while, then this is a great chance to practice. And you have the die, so you could. I'm just looking for a pencil. Let me see. Here's one. Okay, you do not have to do this. You could if you wanted to, but you don't have to. I am going to draw in the score lines so that it is easier here on the video for you to see where they are. This will all be hidden. So if this is something that you think would make your folding experience easier, you could do the same, but you don't have to. All right, so are all the fold lines. Technically, the perforation is also a fold line in the piece. Okay, and the tabs that are going to end up gluing to the card are going to be this tapered tab out here. And you could definitely put an X on these if you want to, because it'll be glued down. This little small tab right there, and then your two left tabs here. Okay, so these four tabs are going to be glued to the card, but we have to fold it first. Okay, so these 1, 2, 3 along this bottom, let's just ignore this right now. These bottom three has 3 vertical folds, and all 3 of them are going to fold away from you as a mountain fold, looking at the top of the mountain. So that one, when you go to do this one, it's going to take your square on a little ride, and that's fine. Just let the square flip over as well. So mountain fold, and then the one over here is also mountain fold. Okay, so we're basically making, we looked at it from the side, see how that's going to sit in the card. Okay, so mountain, mountain, mountain. All right, this is our upper platform. All right, so this little one right here is the only valley fold in the entire piece. That one's a valley, and what a valley means is that you fold towards yourself, so you're looking into the valley. All right, and when you do that, then that's going to bring this up and over, and all 3 of these are also going to be mountain folds. So the little small X tab, mountain fold. This one that's just a little bit away from the valley fold, mountain fold. And then this big one at the end, mountain fold. Okay. And so see, this is how it's going to be in the card, so that you've got this little upper platform that's going to hold the square. Okay. And then this is going to make the spinner right here. So it's basically mountain, 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 and then one little valley. And then what's kind of cool about this little valley fold is, let's flatten this back out again. Okay, right now you'll see that these two don't line up next to each other. But if I were to use that valley fold and the next mountain and hold it like this, they do. And that's going to be the position that we end up putting this in the card. So that's kind of the trick to getting these to line up, is that you use the little stair step fold, the valley mountain. Okay, but before we get to that, let's work on our spinner. All right, so this right here, I like to think of my little wine glass or champagne glass right here. Okay, so you've got the 2 diagonal folds and you've got the fold up the middle. We've already worked the fold up the middle. Okay, now we want to work these 2 diagonal folds. And the easiest way to do that is with the mountain closed, because now I've got a diagonal fold that lines up over the top of each other, which means I can just grab it and fold through both layers. Okay, so I'll fold it down, give it a pinch, and then I'll fold it the other way and give it a pinch. Okay, and then I'm going to come back to where I started. And now I've worked these 2 folds. All right, but I can't pour champagne in yet because I haven't made it into a little, a receptacle. So the way I make it into a receptacle is that I push the mountain fold well, here, let me get my square out. Make sure your square isn't caught right there. So, okay, let me put it back where it started. Okay, so I've worked the 2 diagonal folds. I've got the mountain up the middle, and I want to push in between the 2 triangles so that as I close that mountain fold, now those triangles are going to fold into the piece. Okay, and then it just takes the square with it. Okay, see what that does? All right, let me pull that back out and do that one more time. Okay, so I've got this mountain fold. I want to push in between the 2 diagonals so that those triangles actually fold into the piece as I fold my mountain down. And it's just taking the square. In fact, let me just, if yours is doing like mine, where it's kind of getting caught up on your upper platform, you can put that back to a flat position if it's easier. Okay, so that's what we're looking to do. All right, then this square is now going to come up and over the top so that it's on the front. And the only place where it's going to get adhesive is this right triangle right here. So just this right triangle, the one that's underneath the perforation line, That's the only place glue is going to go. All right, so I'm going to add my strong glue in that triangle. All right, then the perforation line is meant for folding. So I'm going to bring the square up and over the top, and I'm going to take my thumb and I'm going to pinch it down into that triangle. And you'll notice that that square is split. See how that square is split? So it's just this right upper section of that square that's going into that triangle. And then now when I work my mountain fold and close it up, the square goes with it. See? And that split allows this portion to stay above the mechanism, whereas this section dives in behind the triangles. So that is the spinner square. That's the entire mechanism right there. Okay, and that's the trickiest part. People have the trickiest part with when they get to the wine glass and stuff. They don't have any problem with the mountain, 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 and the valley, and the mountain, 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 and all that. That all part is fine. It's this part, getting this one, that my students seem to have the trickiest part if they're new to this die. But once you get it, you get it. It's real easy. And guess what? You get to try it 2 more times in class today. And we're going to reverse one and make it spin the other way. So, we got all sorts of fun stuff coming. All right. So the closed position of this mechanism for putting it in the card is that we do want to have our triangles folded inward. So, okay, so what that does is it pulls your square so that it's going this way. Okay, and your horizontal should be horizontal. So if you're looking at it and you can see your X tab out here and your thing is vertical, that's not the closed position. We want to have it this way. Okay, so the square is the horizontal thing. This one's horizontal. Okay, and when we glue something to this, then you know what I should have been showing you. Let me see. Okay. There is a good, I was going to glue this on right now, but yeah, I'm going to glue it on right now. Or I'll put it in the card. I don't know. Anyway, okay, so do you have a ruler? Let's hope you have a ruler. Pause me and go get a ruler if you don't, because let's figure out where this is going in the card. So according to our handout, we need to measure 2 1/4 from the bottom for the bottom edge of our mechanism putting it inside the card. Okay, so 2 1/4 on 2 1/4 inches. Okay, 2 1/4, and I'm going to give myself a little pencil line right in the middle there. That's all going to be up underneath the card, so you don't have to worry about it. So right there. Okay, so finding the flat position. So on the right side, the flat position is that you've got a horizontal line right here. On the left side, the flat position is where these are lined up next to each other. Okay, so what does that mean? Again, we have to take the little stair step fold, and then you've got these next to each other. Okay, and then if we were to flip this over and look on the back, you can see I can see my little small X tab. I can see my little tapered tab on the back. And on the front, these are lined up next to each other, and the line in the square is pointing out to the right. All right. Then I'm going to lay this down so that the bottom corner is right on my line, my little 2 1/4 inch from the bottom line. And I'm going to add adhesive to those X's and close the card so that it will actually put those over here. Does that make sense? Now, some people say, well, why wouldn't I just glue them down right there? I mean, you can. I always find I like to do it this way because I can see my X's. I can always lift the card up to make sure that I'm not crossing the fold, but I want to butt right up to the fold. Okay. And then I'm holding that in position while I add adhesive all over my 2 left X panels. And they're different sizes, the 2 X panels. So you can see by my glue that the glue comes to the fold line on the upper one, which is a little further than the lower one. They're 2 different size squares. Okay, so just make sure those are kind of butted right up next to each other and that the ends are in the fold. And then we're going to press the adhesive. And if you're looking on your handout, you can see a visual of that right there. Okay. All right, so when I open this, it's just going to move it to the other side because all I did is glue those 2 X panels down right there. Okay. All right, then I've got the access now to my other 2 X's, and I'm in that flat position, which is nice. So all I have to do is add adhesive to that little small X and to that tapered tab X, like this, okay? And then with a pop-up like this, you wouldn't want to just pull it across the fold and try and guess where it goes. You want to leave everything flat because right now we know this card will fold flat because we're going to actually attach it in the flat position. So what that means is we're going to take the right side of the card, We're going to go up and over the top, and we're going to just press it into those 2 tabs. And when you're using glue, you have to be a little patient, and you may have to be a little assistive. So what I mean by that is if I just barely open it, I have the opportunity to take my finger in there and like hold that tab that I just glued down, that tapered tab. Because the first time that I'm opening it, it's going to try and spin the square. But if it finds it easier just to pull your tabs up, it's going to do that, right? So if you have something where you can go in and hold a tab down while you see, it just pulled that tab up. So make sure that you either give it time to dry, or as you're opening it, if you have long enough fingers and can hold them both, see if you can hold those tabs while you get it open. Because once you've got it open the first time, I'm just going to go slow here, you can go in and really give those 2 tabs a press with the card open. So that can either be by reaching in and doing it, or by, pressing here and here. Okay, so whichever is easiest. Okay, and there's the little spinner square. Okay, so I had meant to, but I didn't. I had meant to add the rectangle before I glued it in the card, or at the time, just because I wrote the instructions that way to glue your rectangle on right there. But it doesn't matter. We can still glue the rectangle on. But now basically in the handout, it's showing to put the rectangle on so that it's sticking up. But that's because it was not connected yet. So now it's connected. So basically it's going to be already open when we glue it on, if that makes sense. So the 3 sections of the square that can get adhesive are basically everything except the quadrant that's diving into the mechanism. So the other 3, this L, can get the adhesive. Okay. Yeah. And then this bottom left corner of the piece is going to go right here. Okay, so it's going to be sticking out to the right. It's not going to be completely horizontal unless you were to completely flatten your card, and even then it probably won't get to fully horizontal because, it's a mechanism. So but that's what you want to see. You want to see it basically coming out here kind of diagonally. Okay, there it is. You've done all the hard part. All the hard part of this class is over. Okay, so typically what you would do, let me see, I'm going to grab a card here. All right, here's the card from the packaging of this die set. Okay, so you can see that little frame. You can make a really cool window card with it because you do get all of those things and stuff. Okay, so typically you would put solid square, okay, up here on top, and then whatever would just spin out from behind the square. Okay, what we're going to do a little bit differently in this class is we're going to have our square that we're putting on the top have a corner cut out so that we can actually have items spinning on top of the square. So let me show you in this one. See, right? So essentially, because of that little area that we have cut out, then we're able to use, I was trying to see if I could get it in there where you could see it on the camera. I mean, you're going to see it when we're about to make it. But there's a pop dot that's attaching essentially these 2 squares to the spinner so that they're spinning on top of this bottom square. So that's just kind of a different technique. Probably easiest to learn by doing. Okay, so what I had you do is when I had you cut your big square, I had you nest in the small square at the same time. And I just had you butt it up to the edge of the die so that you cut it, and then it had this little corner cut out already. And then I had you cut the next size down out of the floral journaling square. And what we're going to do is we're going to glue that centered to the other one, recognizing that a fair bit of it in the corner is going to be over air. So do that over a scratch paper if you care about getting glue on your table. Don't do that over your project because you're going to have a gluey square right there unless you were good about not adding glue in that area. Okay, so all I did is just center that in the square. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over, and I'm going to use my scissors, and I'm going to trim away the excess pattern paper, but also the little small thin corner area of the white square. So that's all coming off. That's trash. And then now you'll have a square that has a corner cut out on it. I'm trying to think which, oh, that's what I did. Oh. Glad I could see on my original card. I didn't give you a measurement because I was like, oh my gosh, where did I do this? Okay, this one's going to go. That's why I didn't give you a measurement, because you don't need a measurement. So this one's actually going to line up and attach just to that upper square right there. And I looked at my original and it's basically just in line with the top. Okay. Whew. All right. So as you choose, let's do it this way. Okay. We're going to put the adhesive all over the top right here. All right. Then I would bring it up to like 90 degrees and then put your white square on there, but I would leave just a smidge of red showing along the fold. Okay. And then that way it's not going to bunch in the fold when you close the card. You basically got like a little tiny little gap right there, and it'll make it easier for it to fold down and not have like any crunching in the fold. So if you just leave yourself a little bit of room right here when you glue that on, and I just lined it up with the edge here and the cutout corner is over here. Okay. All right. I don't know why this one's so fun to play with. It really is. Okay. So we need to get this little set glued together. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to arrange our ice cream cone as a diagonal, and then we're going to put the donut as a diagonal. And if you want to match mine, what I did is the scallops of the donut square kind of covered all the holes of the frame, and then one scallop is sticking out further than the frame. Okay, so essentially I can put my adhesive over the black one like this. All right, and then I'm going to take this one and figuring out which diagonal I think looks the best. Going to glue that on there. I'm giving a little extra pressure because I'm gluing to mirror card, which is always a little tricky, but then you'll have a set like this, okay? All right, then the way we're going to attach that to the spinning square is with that pop dot I was talking about, okay? So we've got to place the pop dot so that it can travel into a closed position. And so as you put this on, I think if I remember correctly, over here is a good spot, but I would just lightly place it because you want it to be able to close. It's basically it's not gonna just spin, it's going to arc, okay? As that comes up, it's gonna move a little bit. So you wanna make sure that you have room for it to move and not hit your mechanism. So that seems to be a good spot. So basically over here, kind of close, so find a spot where you can open and close it and it doesn't hit, it's not so far that it hits over here when it closes. So if it's too far up, and you also don't want it to hit down here when it opens. So somewhere in here, okay, like this. All right, and then now you have to choose your natural viewing position for this card. So this is not a card where people are going to open it all the way flat. It would be difficult to do so, and then it wouldn't even be a pop-up anymore. It would just be flat. So you can see on mine, my natural viewing position, the one that feels like it's open, to me, still has a bend to the card. And now is the time where you kind of have to decide where you're going to, where's the natural stop point for your card? About right here, this looks about right. Because the reason is that you're going to line this up in that open position to be in a position that you like. So, and it makes a difference, right? Because if I went further, then that's different. If I went all the way flat and I put it on for that being the viewing position, and then somebody only opened it to here, it wouldn't be, so I would leave a little bend in the card is what I'm saying. Like maybe you just do what I do, just kind of open it and see where it ends, and then once you've decided on a good viewing position for the card, you know what, let me take the top off that thing. All right, now I'm going to do it again, get a good viewing position. So probably about there. Then I'm going to take my two square sets, and what I'm looking to do is have it be kind of like that corner and that corner, like basically covering up where you don't see that there's a square cut out anymore. Okay, you do have to watch that you don't end up outside the card. Okay, so if you end up outside the card, like mine is just barely in my donut, basically what that means is you think, oh, it has to go this way. No, it has to go up, right? Because what are we looking to do? We're looking to move that this way. So if that were a case where I wanted to move that up, I'm going to have to be careful. I could go up just a smidge. Okay, get it on there and then check it again. Yeah, and now it's in. Okay, so you may have to go up a little bit to keep your donut square in the card in the closed position. And then now see when it's in its natural viewing position, I have some nice diamonds. All right. Now, again, you have you have the opportunity. If I wanted to move that again, if I'm careful, I can peel it up off the thing, move it up a little more or something, or maybe I didn't like the angle of it exactly right. So, just be real careful with it as you do. Okay. And now we have that. So that's just a way to use the spinner square. Now, I know there are a couple people I think that were thinking, well, I don't know, I don't really send summer cards, but what I always say about class cards is take the class, make the card in the colors. You can always find someone that you can send that card to, or frankly, gift that card to somebody that's also a card maker that might want to send it to someone they know. I mean, you can do that. But then you're learning the technique. And then when you go to make this card again, you can make it out of whatever colors and themes you want. So you can imagine this is a pretty generic technique. We put sweet treats in here, but you could put anything in there. Little flowers, little stamped images, whatever you wanted to. You could take the backyard charms and put the cute little snail in there and the little butterfly down here. Lots of ways you could do that. Okay, now from here we're pretty smooth sailing. So now what we're going to do with our other squares that are on the pop-up is we're going to actually attach them to the leftover rectangle that we can see down here. Okay, and we're going to start by putting the popsicle on because that's the one that you have the most room for. And what we want to do when we choose this one is we want to choose a place for this so that if possible, there's some sticking out the top to where we can glue to it, if that makes sense. So what I mean by sticking out the top is so that you have an edge of your pink one that's wider than your black one. So for that, I'm just going to add my glue all over this corner of the spinning square. I always say with pop-ups, try to pinch against your finger when you're adding something to a pop-up in a popped up position versus just mashing down on it from the top, because you don't want to add like extra folds in places where they shouldn't be. So I'm taking my finger underneath there, and when I'm attaching that square to the spinning square, I'm doing it against my finger. Okay. And it is a really good idea to use glue for this, because then you can, if you ended up with this one, it was a little low, for instance, then it would stick out this side. You could still move it. So, but that's why I had you measure the 2 1/4 and all that, because I knew if you did it in that position that it would work, because it worked for me. And so there's even a little room on that one. All right. And then our watermelon one is going to attach basically to the pink one. So we're going to overlap a couple scallops and have it be attached up here. So. All right, and then I'm going to attach that. I'm kind of just following the visual of this edge with that too. So everything's kind of, ooh, is it going to stay in? No, it didn't stay in. Okay, so let's see. Wait, let me think. This has to go this way. All right, that just means I have to overlap it a little bit more to keep it in the card. Oh, it did. Okay. So I had to come. Just remember, the thing that is sometimes confusing about the spinner squares, your closed position is spun 90 degrees from where your open position is. And so then when you see something sticking out, you think, oh, I have to go down. But once it's open, what that really means is you have to go in, if that makes sense. So just look at which side is sticking out and then which direction it has to move. So I have to move, this way to bring it in. So then once you've got a spot where it's all staying within the card in the closed position, okay, then you've got your thing. So generally, I kind of say you don't want to create any catch points on something that's got moving parts. This is spinning up in the air for the most part. So other than this corner of the watermelon, which might, or this corner, I don't really think anything's going to hit the card. So you should be fine to glue your watermelon um, square kind of to finish the visual of the 5 square system, but maybe check it and make sure that your red one skims over the top of it and doesn't become a catch point before you glue it down. Okay, so for this one, let me look at my original here. Okay, so I kind of did it just in line with this and up towards the top. I mean, this is definitely, yep. It ends up kind of being right underneath the watermelon one in the closed position. Okay, there we go. All right, and then you have got a butterfly here that I glued to this edge right here. This seemed to be a good spot that didn't create any catch points, but still let the butterfly be flying, which I thought was cool. Once again, I'm going to pinch against my finger as I add that. And I am going against mirror card, so I've got to give it a second. Come on, butterfly. There we go. All right. So anyway, that's a cool technique, different than the usual spinner square thing. The only thing we have left for the inside of the card is just to make our 2 last pieces over here. And that's kind of to your liking. Let's see, let's pull mine up. So looks like I did it. It's really actually kind of funny when we do the Zoom classes and stuff. Sometimes the students will ask like, well, how, what's the measurement on, like, how far down is it? And sometimes it's where it landed, y'all. Like I didn't spend that much time thinking about it when I designed it. I was just like, okay, this looks good. So that one's going to go there, and then this one's going to overlap it a little bit like this. And all right, card number 1. All we have to do is add that front, which we already constructed. Okay, so closing the card, this one's just going to center and glue right on there. And that does leave a little shadow. So as you put that on, just look on your outside edges. You've got a little shadow all the way around. And there we have it. Card number 1. Our cute little summer card. Using a spinner square. Okay, so we are going to dive into card number 2 next. And remember, if you need a little break or whatever, you can just hit pause and come back and do your card 2. Just, pay attention to what the timestamp is. Okay, everyone, we got through card number 1. It is time for card 2. I'm going to challenge you a little bit with this one because we're going to use 2 spinner squares inside this card, and I'm going to have you reverse the folds on one of them so that one of them is actually spinning the opposite direction and installed on the left side of the card. So some fun amping up our techniques now to use the spinner square a little bit differently. All right, so once again, you should have done your prep work ahead of time. If you haven't done your prep work, no biggie. You just follow the link in your handout and you will find it. It looks to me like there is a tiny little, probably a flower center that was kind of stuck in my bag. So just make sure your bag's completely empty when you do this. Okay, so this one has pre-cuts. Last time we didn't have any pre-cuts in the card because we just used those journaling cards to be our greetings. But in this case, we used our thank you die. So we have a die that just cuts this script thank you. I had the kit makers, whoever you bought your kit from, pre-cut that for you in both a light blue color and then a brown color so that we can end up making like a little drop shadow with it. So it is all connected together like this when you buy the die, but it's very easy to trim them apart and use them as individual words, which is what we're going to end up doing for our thank you cards. So we're going to have them like that. Okay, we won't do that yet. I was just telling you that's the pre-cut that you have. All right, so this one's going to be a, remind myself, 5x5 square card, I believe, which still means an A7 envelope. And you just use a A7 envelope rather than like a 6x6 square or a 5.5-inch square, and then you don't have extra postage for it. And we are going to start again. We're doing these insanely beautiful Echo Park papers. We are going to start by putting our paper inside the card. Now, if you care, there's probably a way that this pattern lines up, although I did not pay attention. That's an interesting, oh look, I figured it out. Okay, if you cut yours during prep work exactly like mine, then the blue butterfly that's here on the left will line up with the right butterfly if you want. Okay, so let's dive in. I am going to turn my face off again. Yeah. Okay. So once again, we're just going to center our pattern paper and glue those inside the card. Or you can use a tape runner for this if you're a tape runner person. I just use my glue for everything these days. Where I live in South Texas, it's very humid down here, and I found that glue just holds up the best. Never have an issue when I'm using glue. But sometimes with those dry adhesives, they're not a match for the humidity. Okay. And one thing about pop-up cards, especially interactive ones like this, I mean, you've seen it just in how many times I've opened and closed the card while creating it, and hopefully you have too while you've been making your own. They're the kind of cards that people really do like to pick up and open and close, and so you really want your adhesive to be strong, hold up to the interaction of your interactive card. All right, so we have this now. This one's a little different than our last one because I'm not going to have you warm up by making all your embellishments. Instead, we're going to dive right into folding spinner squares. Okay, so in this case, you have 2 of them, and they were cut out of the light blue. Once again, I'm going to go ahead and indicate my fold lines on them for the watermelon seed. For the purposes of teaching, you do not have to draw on yours. You'll be able to see on yours where the folds are. Okay. It's actually really easy. I love a smooth cardstock for the pop-up mechanism. This is a 100-pound smooth cardstock that we're using on this one. It doesn't have to be 100-pound, but smooth is so much better than textured when you're doing pop-ups like this that have intricate folds, because what'll happen when you use texture is sometimes the folds get a little lost in the texture, or it folds on the texture instead of where you want it to fold, or whatever. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and mark my X's for my 4 tabs. Okay. All right, although actually this one's going to end up upside down, so maybe I shouldn't have done that. Oh, that's fine. No one looks underneath, right? No. Oh, you know what? As I opened that card, I remembered something. Let's go ahead and get this frame put inside the card so that then when we put the mechanism in, it'll just go through the frame and we don't have to cut the frame to get it on later. So on this one, this is the light blue large frame. This is just decorative. But just go ahead and glue that to the left panel of your card, and I just centered it by eye. So centering it by eye doesn't have to be perfect. It's just decorative. Okay, get that in there. All right, if at worst I would erase my lines if they bugged me, since I use pencil. All right, so we're gonna what I always say to do, even when we're reversing it and going the other way, is just go ahead and fold it the way that you're used to folding it, because then you can reverse the folds later. So if you recall, it's mountain fold on here, mountain fold here, and that brings the square over, mountain fold here. Okay. All right, and then let's just go ahead, because remember last time I was kind of struggling with this one after I folded it, kind of getting up into my square. So let's go ahead and work on the wine glass for this one first, and we'll get the spinner working, and then we can do our upper platform. All right, so mountain fold, mountain fold, mountain fold. And then this one, while we fold it into that mountain position, we can work the diagonal in both directions. So you can either fold it all the way over and pinch it, all the way over and pinch it, or just back and forth a couple times to loosen that fold. Okay. And then if you recall, we're going to press inward. See, it's still catching on that. So you just have to struggle your square against your little small X. We're going to press that so that that folds inward. Okay. And then that's what makes that work. Remember, this one's going to come over the top and into some adhesive right here. Okay. We can do that as well. So adhesive in this right triangle. Now don't get ahead of me and do this one because we're going to reverse the folds on that one. So this is the one that we're going to put on the right side of the card. So we're just doing usual spinner square assembly. Okay, so we have that triangle attached to our square so that when we close that mountain fold that's underneath there, it will spin the square so that you end up with a horizontal thing. Okay. All right, so it doesn't really matter where that is right now. We have to work our folds for our upper platform. So next to the X is a mountain. Okay, this is the only valley. This little valley is right there. This one's a mountain. This one's a mountain. And that will bring that up like this, or in the case of the closed position, using that little stair step fold, these will line up right over here. Okay, so this one's going to be the one for the right side. Okay, that's going to be that one. We can't put that one in yet. So it's going to have to attach to the one for the left side. All right, for this one, we're only working folds because then we're going to actually reverse them so that we can have it spin the other way. All right, so let's start the way we usually do. Mountain, mountain, mountain. And then I'm going to skip the wine glass for now. Well, actually, we can do let's do this. Let's do the back and forth folds on the diagonal. Okay, but we're not going to push our mountain in yet, or push our thing in. Little one is a mountain. This one, oops, this one's a mountain. This one's a mountain. And that little one is a valley. Okay. All right, now we're going to flatten it all out. Okay. And we're going to flip it over and we're going to reverse those folds. So this one's valley. I want it to turn a mountain. This one's a mountain. So now we're basically just flipped it over, but because we've already worked those folds, it's going to be easy to see where they are to reverse them. Okay, so that we essentially have a mirror image spinner square where it's spinning out on the left-hand side instead of spinning on the right-hand side. Okay. All right, so all I did is reverse the folds in the two platforms. Now, up here, I've already worked those diagonal folds, so now I can push in just like I normally would, and it'll get that spinner square down into the piece. Okay. It's always the area underneath the perforation that gets the adhesive for attaching the square. Okay, so in this case, it ends up being the left triangle because we reversed it, but it's always the triangle that's under the perforation. So I add my adhesive on that, over and into that adhesive. Okay, and then as this closes, it'll spin your square out. So basically, I just essentially made a mirror image spinner square. And the reason I can't see my X's is because they're on the back side, because I put X's on them and forgetting I was reversing one. Let me see if I've got an eraser here. And it wasn't. Does it really matter? Those are going to glue down, right? Oh no, it's the top will glue down. Sorry, you will be able to see those. I'm going to take my X's off the back. Just the X's. I don't care about the rest of it. Okay, back to my closed position. Oops. All right, so let me just go ahead and add my X's now to the proper side. X, X, flipping it over, little X, tapered tab X. Okay, so now I've got my X's on the correct one. All right, so this is the one, we're actually going to put the left side in to the card first. Okay, and then we can't put the right side in until we get the square on top of this one, because the right side is actually going to attach to the square for the left side. So see, let me see if I can show you. So this one is attached in the usual manner coming out this way. And then we basically build the second spinner square using this as our new fold. So instead of building it against the card fold, we'll be building it against the new fold that's created by the first one. So that's how this is going to go. Let's see if I can keep that open. This one doesn't have nearly as much, you know, the open on this one is very bent, like, because it's got so much resistance to it with both of them in there. So it does not fold to a even close to flat position on this one because of the doubled. Let's see if I can find a way to keep it. All right, cool. That's good. Okay, I gave you a measurement. Let me look on my instructions here for this one as well. And it is measure 1 3/4 inches from the bottom edge. 1 3/4 inches. 1 3/4 inches. Okay. Okay, so this is 1 3/4 inches. And then that's going to be my line-up spot for my left side spinner square. Okay, so if you recall, what we do is we, we make sure that the stutter step, the valley mountain, is engaged so that these are, well, close. Mine are not perfect, but they're, oh yeah, they're there. Okay. Next to each other. And then you line that up with the little pencil line. Okay, the adhesive goes on both of the X tabs up to the fold line. Okay, I would pick that up, but I have it in such a nice position that I'm not going to. So basically, there's the fold line, there's the fold line. Now I'm going to close the card. And it's going to pick that up and move it over here. Okay, but I can see both of my tabs now that need the adhesive. Okay, those are not, they'll be all right. Okay, so now I'm going to add my adhesive all over this tapered tab and this small tab. Okay, holding those flat, I'm going to close the card, and this is the part where you may have to give it a little help. Give it a second to set up, but also if you have the ability, which this one's only a 5-inch card, so probably most of us can reach those two tabs. But see, I'm holding those two tabs down while I open the card so that it spins the square out and doesn't just pull the tab. And then I can go, I did that on that one. I'm so impatient. I should get more patient. Okay, hold. There we go. Okay. So now we have a spinner square that was just like that first one that we did, but it's actually installed on the left side of the card because we reversed all the folds. All right. Okay. All right. Now, what's going to go on this one is I didn't have you cut usually you use the rectangle. So there's a little rectangle in the set. That's what we used on the first card, a little rectangle that fits on there, and that's what you would usually use for the spinning part. However, I wanted to put thank you on this one, and I needed to have a longer rectangle so that I had room for the entire word thank. Okay, so what I had you do during prep work is actually just use your trimmer and cut a rectangle out of brown and then a little bit smaller rectangle out of the daisy paper. So we're going to glue those two together. Okay, just a little border around the outside. Okay, and then I think maybe we should just go ahead and add our thank you. If you're doing thank you, if you're planning on using something else or you're not sure yet if you want it to be thank you, then you could leave this off and just add it later by pinching it on, pinching it on like we usually do. Okay, so we're going to separate the thank you into two words. So just right between or where the connection points are for both the brown one and the blue one. We're going to cut those off. Now, it is up to you as to whether the blue goes on top of the brown or the brown goes on top of the blue. I decided to put the brown on top of the blue, but I did add some darker brown ink to just give that some dimension. So what I did for that is grab, oh, that one looks like it has red ink on it. Let me find one that doesn't. You know what? I'll flip it over. Oh, wait, here's one. I have these all over the place. It's little non-stick pads. Okay, and then again, I'm a fan of Distress ink, but any brown ink that you had. And I'm going to use, let me do it a little bit darker. So I'm going to do frayed burlap. Okay. And then what I like to do is just hold the top, and from starting off of the piece, I swirl the ink on about halfway up. I stop when I get about halfway up, and it just adds kind of a two-tone sort of look to it. But you know, just add some visual interest and dimension to it. And same thing with the U. Okay. All right, and then we're going to glue each one of those to the blue one, but we're going to offset it just a little bit to make a drop shadow. Okay, so it doesn't matter if you put the glue on the back of the blue or the top of the, the back of the brown or the top of the blue. I'm just going to do the top of the blue here. But then when I put this on, I'm just looking, I kind of like start at my T. I like using glue for this because I can slide it. And then I'm just looking for a little diagonal offset all the way down. Put that on something. See, oh, not that color. Let's see, here's white. Oh no, then you can't see the blue. What about if I put it on blue? Yeah, like that. Okay. And then same thing with the U. So some of our newer big script dies actually have shadow dies that come included. We weren't doing that back in the days of this thank you. So this one doesn't come with a shadow, but you can do the drop shadow, which is a nice look. And you can do that with any of the, you can even do that with the ones that come with a shadow because you can choose to do it this way instead. So you still kind of get the dimension as though you had a shadow die on it. Okay, so we really would like the thank to be as far out on this rectangle as we can. So for me, that meant actually starting the edge of the T with the edge of the rectangle. And then I kind of did it at a little bit of an upward angle. I'm trying to make sure that that K is as far over as I can get it so that I'll see it in the finished card. Not that you couldn't, yeah, see, you just don't have a lot of room in this card for the T. For instance, I was thinking, oh, if you really want to make sure you could like start it off the piece, but you really can't because you don't have room for it. So if you're making it thank you, go ahead and glue your thank on and just start right on the edge of the cardstock with the end of the T and then upward angle it a little bit. Okay, and that should do it. Alrighty. Okay, we can go ahead and add this, the thank anyway, we can't do you yet, but the thank, we can actually add it to our spinning square right now. And when it's open, of course, it should be pulled out like this. And then when it closes, it'll pull it up to this position. So since we're adding it with the spinner square already inside the card, what we would do is we would add our adhesive to the 3 quadrants that don't dive in. Okay, so these 3. And there's a, picture of that. And then we want this corner to line up with this corner. Okay, and again, I'm kind of pinching it to my finger instead of mashing the whole card down since I've already got it popped up. Okay, and then it's going to pull that up in the close position. It'll come close to, but won't stick out of the card. That's what that 1 3/4 was. Important so that you have room for it. Okay, there's our thank. All right, and I'm just going to set you aside. We'll do that when we get to the other side with our other pieces there. Okay. Now we need to get the square onto our first piece so that we can then build our second spinner square out this way. Okay, so that is going to be, put it back on its little holder there. You're looking for the decorative, you've basically got 2 big squares, and you're looking for the smaller of the 2 big squares, the one that has the decorative design on it. Okay, you definitely want that one, not this one, because this is the one we need for the right side. We're going to make that whole butterfly and floral and mushroom scene on this big one. So make sure you're grabbing the smaller one. Okay, and then that one's going to go on here. Now let me verify. Yeah, that one you can actually just kind of center in the card up and down wise. So maybe what you want to do is use this frame as kind of your go by so that it looks like that square is kind of in the limits of that frame, if that makes sense. That might be a good spot for it. Yeah, something like that would be good. That's where mine is. Yeah, I'm essentially using as though it came right out of the middle there, and then it got moved up to this little thing, you know? And it's only this top platform that gets the adhesive. Okay. All right, I'm going to turn it like this because it's going to be easier for me. Once again, I would leave just a little bit of room on that so that it doesn't creak against the card as it opens. You're not even going to see that edge because it's going to be behind the other one. So it's totally fine to leave a little gap, small little gap on that. Let me see if I can get in there with my finger. I'm putting my finger underneath and pressing against my finger. And it's just attached to the upper platform. Okay. Here we go. All right, so by adding that square, what we've essentially done is we have created a new card fold right here. See, that's just like if you can imagine my card was right there, there's a card fold. And wherever you have a card fold, you can build a pop-up. So that's what we're going to use as our card fold for our second spinner square. So this one we've already folded. It's ready to go. I'm going to look and see about where basically I kind of started it essentially where the other one is so that the spinner would be in the same location. So you can see where the other tab is. So use these tabs kind of in that same location. All right, now you have to imagine that this square came all the way to the ground though, because we don't want to tuck these under. We want them just to come up to the edge where that would be. So let me see. You know what? I'm going to tape this down for a second so I can get this closer to the camera. You can see what I'm doing. Oh, I thought that might work, but I guess that's not going to work. Let me see. I have both hands here. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm putting my 2X, which I've used the shutter steps so that they're flat, and then I'm just butting them up to where the fold essentially of this is. Okay, and I'm just lining them up like that, like I was treating it like that was the card fold. And then, just like we did with the other one, we're going to add adhesive all over the 2X squares. Okay, let me see if I can bring that up. All right, now I'm going to keep this nice and flat, and I'm going to close the card, and it's going to pick up that mechanism and attach it to the top of that square. Okay, so we just attached these right here. Okay, so this is going to be a little fussy, not going to lie, because we're working up on top of this square now for our other two tabs, but we're going to treat it just like we would the other one. We're going to add adhesive to our small and large X tabs. Okay, and then we got to try and keep those flat while we close the card. And then this one's going to be the trickiest of all. Patience is maybe the best way, but otherwise you've got to reach in there. And let's see, I can get my finger on that one. On the small tab, I'm going to reach there, and I'm going to reach. This one I can reach. This one, maybe my pinky finger. Okay, now I got to hold those tabs down while I try and open the card. Okay. It's going to spin that other square. Okay. There we go. 2 spinner squares on opposite sides of the card. Fun, fun, fun. Okay, let's make our other thank you rectangle. Or I guess our U rectangle. This one's going to be. We already did thank. And okay, so this one's going to go on here. We're just basically duplicating what we did with the other. All right, so in this case, we want the U to be out on the right-hand side. Now, it's a shorter word than thank, so you can see you can leave a little bit of space, not much, but a little bit of space out on the right if you want on this one. This one isn't as sensitive to spatial issues as thank was, but you still want it out to the right as far as you can, or that looks good to you, so to speak. Okay, here's the view. All right, now this one is going to attach to this square, spinning out here to the right, and the adhesive is going to go once again on the 3 quadrants that don't dive into the piece. Okay, so here we go. Adhesive all over this. This lower corner is going to line up with the corner of that square. I'm going to pinch it between my fingers to attach it rather than mash it. Okay. And then just check that it stays in the card, and it does fine. There we go. Okay. Yeah, you're going to feel the resistance of it when you get much further than here. That really is the open position of this card, is about like this. Once you've, got them to spin out, that's about as far as you can go with this one. You have a lot of pull with all of those folds in there. But it's a very cool technique. All right, you've done all the hard parts of the class, and now we just get to do some decorating. So we're going to go ahead and decorate up this square with all of these pieces, and then we'll glue that finished one to this upper platform. So you are looking for a green square. You should have a couple grass pieces, okay, that were cut out of that same green. And then what we're going to do is we're going to run grass behind this this frame so that it's sticking up into the frame, and then you just cut off the excess. Okay, so probably your best bet is maybe some glue along here and some portion of that one. Let me get the first one on there first. Okay, so I'm going to pick up that grass with my frame. Ooh, sorry. And then move over and pick up this grass with my frame. Me and my lack of patience. There we go. And then get rid of this. Okay, so there's my grass attached to the back of the green frame, and then now that green frame can go on here. Now, when you glue this on, if you're doing it like me, just use the adhesive around the frame itself and don't put adhesive behind the blades of grass. And that way you can still tuck your stems of your flowers behind the grass and the mushroom and stuff. So only on the bottom edge and not behind the grass itself. Okay. There we go. All right, and then let's make some flowers. So this is we're moving to backyard charms now. So the first card we mostly use the Sweet Treats charms, and this one we're basically only, I think, using the backyard charms on it. It has lots of cool pieces. We didn't end up using the little snail at all. He's a cutie. Just didn't happen to work for this card. But what we are going to do is we are going to make the white flowers are going to have the shiny orange, kind of gold. They're the safety orange is the color that was used. And so we'll glue and attach those in the center of the whites. Okay. Is there a white one on the front of the card too? There is. There's 3 white ones to make. Let me just make all the flowers and mushrooms and everything at one time. It's easier. Okay, so then the third white one. Gotta find my last flower center. See, that's what it would have been like if we would have had to dig out watermelon seeds on the last one. We didn't use adhesive on the back. Okay, so it looks to me like one of the white flowers is going to get the 2-leaf stem. That's the one for the front of the card. So it is really up to you. You can cut off the charm hole as to whether you make a tall flower, which would mean that you would attach the stem behind one of the petals, or if you attach the stem between 2 petals, we'll make it a little bit shorter. Okay, so that's really completely up to you. It looks like on my original for this one, I did kind of the shorter flower where I put the stem up between, in the valley of 2 petals. Yes, that's the word I'm looking for. Okay, and you are attaching to a shiny piece because we put the packing tape on it. So you'll have to give it a second to set up. When we go to glue it on the page, it won't be a problem. I halfway wonder if we should just do it that way. You know what I mean? Just glue it on in place as you go, because then you don't have to fight the packing tape not wanting to grab your glue. So that is an option as well. So if you can't get your glue to stick, like I can't get my glue to stick, then we'll just build them in place. Okay. Okay, so this little overlay is going to go over the glitter mushroom. I'm choosing all sorts of things that just make glue like take longer, just for an added little bit of challenge. But see, it makes the pop-ups look easier if it's hard to glue everything else, right? Okay, sorry. Let's get that off of there. All right, so there is a mushroom. So that's going to go something like that. I mean, you don't have to match my layout on these, but I did a mushroom and then I put a stem behind the mushroom so that then when I put the flower on, it was, you know, higher up. You can kind of like lay out your pieces and decide. Like this one, I did a 2-stem white flower, 2-leaf stem, something like that. And then I made the side flower. I probably should know the names of these flowers, but I don't. I'm actually really not a flower person, so you know. I mean, this one's probably a weed, but I like the look of it. So, okay, here we go. Little brown center piece to that. Okay, not a charm, so I can cut that off. Single stem, can't say it, single leaf stem, 1 leaf stem. Okay. And then it's kind of up to you as to whether those flowers overlap or not. You know, it just depends on whether you like the dimension of having them overlap or whether you don't want them to. So, I mean, that's just completely up to you. All right, now I'm going to start gluing these things down. So let's see, what needs to go down first? This stem. And again, you know, definitely use your own creativity as to how you combine these pieces and the little scene that you want to create with it. Oh, this one ended up being a lot taller than my, I'll make it a little lower. I'll just cover up more of the stem and then it will lower it down. Okay. Alrighty, and then my mushroom. One nice thing about that glitter paper is although it's hard to it's difficult to glue to the front of it, the back of it's just, you know, white. It's easier. Alrighty, then the stem. So we have just celebrated our 6-year anniversary. We opened 6 years ago this month, and we started out with 12 dies. That's all we had in our first release, 12 dies. And then we've grown. Like I said, we have over 200 now. And they're a mixture of pop-ups. We have, I can't remember the exact number, but over 65 different pop-up dies. But then we have lots of things like charms, animals, words, scenery, just everything you need to be able to make a card completely out of dies. So we're not a stamp company, we're a die company. You know, I never say never, but I really, really, really love crafting with dies. And it's kind of where I get most of my inspiration and stuff is through dies. And then it also, you know, gives another option for a way to make a card that doesn't always require you to have coloring skills. So we definitely have some customers that really just prefer the look of a, you know, creating their embellishments through layering papers versus from stamping and coloring. But most of our design team is stampers and colorers, so they also show that these dies make great foundation pieces to be able to decorate with your stamps. So, you know, whatever kind of crafter you are, whether you just want to use our dies as your foundation pieces and then you're going to use your stamping or maybe pre-mades or whatever you've got that you like to use, or we'll offer you, of course, every type of embellishment die to decorate these pop-ups without stamps. Okay, so a cool kind of trick that I showed in the prep work video is actually cutting through some of the butterflies in the paper with the butterfly die, and then just taking a pen and filling in the center and the antenna. And that's kind of a cool way to get some interesting patterns on the dies. Now it does look, I'm looking at my original, and it sure does look like I brushed those edges with a little bit of blue ink. So that's optional, but if you want to, not that I remember what blue I used, but I'm going to assume it's weathered wood because that looks like a color that would match that butterfly a little bit. I mean, it would look fine. I can just see it on the edge that it's got a little ink, so I'm going to add some. Mostly just because it's blue on blue where it's going. Okay, and then on that one, I mean, it's kind of up to you as to whether it just stays in the sky or whether it partially goes up into the frame. And I'm just going to follow the one I did before. So on the one I did before, the wing kind of came up and into the frame just a bit. All right, so there's that little scene. Alrighty, and then that is going to go on this upper platform. And what you're going to do is you're going to center it like on this one so that there's the same little lip here as there is here. Okay. And if you want to leave just a little smidge, it'll like you for it. It won't creak if you leave a little smidge of blue showing on that upper platform. Or you can butt it right up next to it, but then if it's not perfectly straight, then it might creak a little bit. So if you can just leave the tiniest little smidge of platform showing, it just gives it a little breathing room. See, it's small. It's just a small little smidge. Okay. There you go. See, mine's not creaking. Because what happened is, like, because of how long this is, like if you're just a little bit crooked or something and you're butted right up next to it, then this edge can kind of like creak along this one, which it still works. It's just like, you know, does that bug you or not bug you? Okay, so in the Backyard Charms, there is this cute little fairy. She is a charm, but we're not going to use her as a charm today. So you can cut off the charm hole at the top of both the glitter one and the brown one. And we're going to do that same drop shadow technique with the fairy. So we'll add the adhesive all over one of them. I'll do the brown one, the underneath one. Okay, and then I just leave a little drop shadow so that she's going to be a little offset to the, I always tend to do drop shadows like diagonally bottom right. I don't know why. It's just the way I usually do them. But it wouldn't matter. You could go upper left, you could go upper right, lower left, whatever diagonal, pleases you. And then she's going to go on that rectangle that's out of the maroon star paper. I just love the colors of this one. Those papers. Pattern paper is like my favorite thing because it just does some of the work for you, Fills. I'm a space filler. I like to fill space. So if I can fill it with pattern from pattern paper that are beautiful, that are made by somebody else, I just buy their beautiful paper and add it to my card. I love that. Okay, and then she's going to go right here in this area. But yeah, this particular paper set I really, really liked. Okay, so since it's a popped up position, I am going to pinch against my fingers. I'm going to add it, and I just centered it top to bottom and centered it right to left as well. Okay. And then as a place to sign the card, there is the maroon star and then a smaller white. Those are going to layer over the top of each other. Okay. And then I'm going to put that right here in this lower right corner. And just so I have more room, I didn't leave it up on the pattern paper. I actually had it down where just a smidge of brown on these two sides is showing. And that's one nice thing about the spinner square too, is that you do have all those squares and photo corners and rectangle and stuff in there. That cool frame where you've got what you need for other cards as well, or for even just things like this where you need a little journaling square. You don't have to go into another die set to get those. You can just use the ones that come in the die set as included. So it's kind of the goal with the pop-up dies, for me anyway, is when I design them, knowing that pop-up dies are, well, any die really is an investment, but I want you to have enough pieces in the base set so that you have everything you need to make a cool card. So we will, of course, try to sell you some other dies, right? Like this one, it'll always tell you what else I use. So for this card here, in addition to the pieces that came out of the spinner square, I also used the coffee charms. That's where that little coffee cup came from. And I used the sea animals. That's where the little crab came from. And then I used our tropical scene for the sand, which is the little sand that the crab is on. So it'll always tell you on the packaging what else was used on the sample card. But I try as much as possible. And then this is a little stamp crabby till I get my coffee from Riley and Company. So my business and partner owns Riley and Company, so we can get that stamp from them. Okay, so for the front of the card, I think the best thing to do in this case is just to build it on this piece of paper, and then we'll glue the finished one to the card. That way we've got a flat surface to work on. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add that strip of glitter paper. That gold Mary Sparkle paper is from the Paper Cut, so they offer that really fine tooth glitter in a variety of colors. And then they have one that's like a chunkier glitter paper that we didn't use on this card, but they do have those chunkier ones too. But I love those really fine Mary Sparkle paper. Lots of colors. All right, so now we've got all of these pieces left to go here. So we have, I seem to be, oh, there it is. Okay, I realized when I, after I die cut everything and was looking at the pieces, I was like, oh, I cut that down. That is up to you. So that, if you, for whatever reason, I can't remember, I decided that the wide frame was kind of wide, and so I cut it down. But it really doesn't hurt my feelings as the wide one either, because then you get that cool score line around the outside and you don't have to sit there with either your trimmer or your scissors or your blade and like make a thin one. So you know what? I'm going to make this one with the wide frame. But if you really didn't like the wide frame, what you could do is only have to cut two edges by just getting it up to the score line on two sides. And then you would only have to cut here and here if you wanted it to be the skinny frame. Okay, so I'm going to do it with wide frame, and that we have two to look at, and you can decide which one you like better. I'd actually forgotten that I did that thin frame. But I kind of like the wide one. All right, so we've got this. Then we have our blue scalloped is going to be the background for this, but we want grass in between. Okay, so we're going to put grass on the back of this wide safety orange is the color of this frame. Just picking that up, trimming off the excess. Okay, so once you have the grass on the back, then you can glue that to that blue scallop one. So I'll just put the adhesive around the scallop one since it's the smaller one. Get that on. Okay, so we should still have a stem that has two leaves. That's going to be for our flower, and I could still pick it up and pick up the grass and tuck it underneath. So like this. And then our little white flower that's not going to be a charm. Once again, you can kind of decide. Oh, wait, I can't put that on just yet because I don't want to put my frame edges on. So this time we did not use any adhesive on the back of the frame because we did the packing tape trick and because we didn't need the little confetti on it either anyway. So you can, looking around to see where my, oh, I don't know, I was using it. I don't know where it is. The cool little Spellbinders tool that is the brush that you can brush across and weed dyes really easily. I have that tool somewhere, but I have managed to misplace it. Okay, well, I'm just going to poke them out with pokey tool. Okay, this time I'm gonna get it right on the spacing of it. Last time I was like, line it up here. I'm looking at it. You know, it really actually does look like if you just line up the edges with the score line that it should. Oops, sorry, it should work. Anyway, okay. So I mentioned Riley and Company, which is my business partner, Tanya Kostenuk's company. So 6 years ago, I was fresh off of a licensing contract where I was licensing my designs to another company, and decided I really kind of wanted to go out on my own and be my own company, but also, you know, I just didn't want to do that on my own. I didn't really have all the experience with it and everything. My experience was kind of specialized in licensing. So Tanya, my good friend Tanya, who owns Riley and Company, she was looking for another opportunity. So we joined forces. So and we started KB Riley, which is Karen Burniston and Riley, kind of put together. And we're based out of Topeka, Kansas. So that's where we ship from. And Tanya handles all of that side of it. So she's there in the home office and handles everything. And we have a fulfillment logistics manager, Sue. She handles getting all your orders out really, really fast. And then we have Karina, who handles all of our social media and customer service. And some of you may have spoken to Karina on the phone before. She answers the phone for us. Among many things that she does, that's just one of the things she does. So we all kind of wear many hats. But I work remotely because I live in Texas. So, and I pretty much handle the design of all the dyes, and then the education and the design team, and the that side of the creative kind of product side is me. And we have an amazing design team. It's international, so we have people from the United States, but we also have people from Canada. We have Australian design team member. We have a design team member from the Netherlands. So we do ship internationally, but we also sell through distributor. So if you're in another country, you might check with your local. If you're so lucky as to have like a local store, they can order our products through a distributor if they need to, or they can order directly from us. But we also ship to other countries as well. So we're international. And let's see, social media. You found my YouTube channel. So this is where you'll find all the videos. I do videos, assembly videos on all of the dies except for words. So if it's even if it's a charm or an animal or something, like there's a video that shows you how to assemble all of those backyard charms. So how to do anything that's like a stencil feature or an emboss feature or something. It'll be covered in that assembly video. And you'll find them here on this YouTube channel by just going down to the playlist that's, for all the assembly videos, or you can always go on our website on KarenBurniston.com and just search for the die that you're looking for, and the assembly video will be right there on the product page. All right, that is ready for a flower. So really just layering pieces while we're doing here. And you can see how well that a card like this lends itself to customization. Only when we get into the charms themselves does it have really any theme to it whatsoever. So you really can take these as just templates and make your own versions of them in other colors. Okay, we are missing, oh, there she is. All right, I'll save that until I get that put on the card. All right, last little bit here. We're going to do a mushroom in a frame. So adhesive, oh, well, I'll do it here. That's been the way I've been doing it, is adhesive on the front of the grass at the base, and then pick it up with my frame. Okay, and then cut off the excess, and that's going to go to that blue scalloped square, the last one. Okay, this is not going to be a charm, so I'll cut off the charm hole. And then adhesive on the mushroom overlay. Get that on there. I do love that glue because it dries clear, but also like it, you know, you can brush it off if it's, you know, if you're sloppy, like I was sloppy. Okay, and then that is going to go in our final little frame. Okay, so if you are interested in doing this class, I don't have any idea whether there's still kits left, but you can, oh, it looks like I tucked that underneath there. Can I still do that? If I couldn't, I would just go over the top because it's not worth stressing out over. But looks like I can get this edge up just a little bit. I wasn't paying attention there. So if you want to take this class, you can check the description box below to see the links to the stores that had made kits for it, and they could have some left, so you could check that. And if not, then our next virtual class that's in this format with the all YouTube will be in September, and you'll be able to purchase kits for that from our website or from the stores. It's not even designed yet, so it's not ready. But or if you're interested in Zoom classes, you can contact those stores for that. And the links are in the description box below. And then butterfly to finish it up. All right, there we go. So that one's got the wider frame. There it is if you cut the frame down. So that's your choice. Oh, that's nice. Okay. You do just make sure that you're gluing this to the front of your card. Take a quick check that you haven't flipped your card over accidentally, because that has happened before. And that's no fun. You open it and it's like, oh, that's terrible. It's upside down. All right, we did it. We got our second card done. So this was hopefully fun. What I like about it being on YouTube is that you are in control. You can actually go back and watch these at your own leisure and do it in pieces or whatever you need to do. Let's see. I guess I could put my face back on. Although I gotta say, I'm sweating a little bit. I'm doing these cards for a couple hours now. Anyway, thank you all so much for joining us for our virtual class. I'm Karen Burniston. You can check out everything at KarenBurniston.com under the events if you're interested in the next one. And thanks for joining us. Bye.